Welcome to another exciting episode of Prepper Talk Radio. What in the world update? This is we don't do this every month, but we do like to hit some of the what's in the news for you, how it affects you. So hold your applause to the end of the show because we're going to get into the UFO craze for a little bit. What to do to prepare for an alien takeover. There's obviously a narrative being pushed here. So we want to talk about it and have a little fun. We're going to jab the bear, I guess you could say, poke the bear, see what comes out. But this episode is brought to you by our affiliate, Jace Case. Now, Jace Case is your emergency antibiotics. Why are we talking about it today? Well, if aliens do come, you don't have access to the Walgreens, the other pharmacies, your Costco's, whatever, you need to have your emergency antibiotics on hand. You go to jacemedical.com. Use the code PrepperTalk, and you're going to save $10 on that emergency case for you. And what's great about it is you can refill those. And they even have, they're starting to add more and more medications that you need on the daily. So if you've got diabetes or other conditions, check through their website, use the same promo code, PrepperTalk, to save on your purchase at checkout. It is phenomenal. We all have one. We highly recommend it. And in the case of an alien invasion, and you can't get out to Walgreens, you're going to need these. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So, without further ado, well, what was that movie? M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's movie, where the aliens came. You remember that movie?
I think so. Yeah, I can't remember it on the top of my head, though.
Not Sixth Sense. That was the other one. But in it, he's like, water was toxic to the aliens. So one of the first facets of preparedness that we like to talk about is making sure you have your first aid and then your water.
Signs. So, it was the movie Signs.
Signs. That's right. Signs. So stock up on your water now because you never know when you're going to need it for self-defense. And all kidding aside, the reason we're on this topic is right now there's congressional hearings going on, more congressional hearings going on about the UAPs, which formerly known as UFOs. It's the You told me what it's called. It's the unidentified aerial phenomena. Phenomena.
Right.
It's a show.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had, unfortunately, Shane had a family emergency, so he wasn't able to jump on. And we had another topic that was his, something that he really was excited to talk about. So we're going to save that for another day. Scott and I were like, what can we talk about while Shane's gone? We're like, oh, let's talk about UFOs and the whole craze that's going on right now.
Going on here. There's so much to unpack. And the thing is like, if you watch the media, they're always pushing something down your throat. And the more you see something, the more you hear something, the more you start to accept it as truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just on repeat. Hey, guys. Yellow is green, yellow is green, yellow is green. Eventually, you're going to believe that yellow is green.
Yes.
Or the sky is pink. Okay, maybe besides at the end of the day when you're watching the sunset. Yeah. But they're pushing different things. But what are the actual things going on in all the story? Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember this just takes me all the way back to World War II, Germany. What was Hitler doing with human experimentation? Human hybridization, right?
Yeah.
There are testimonies coming out from Marines who saw firsthand non-human humanoids at crash sites, and they're whistleblowing now, and many other things. Mm-hmm. Among many other things, they're talking about all these different hybrid like monsters and creatures that they've never seen. And we know that there's truth behind animal hybridization. Just things that they've tried. Like the simplest and most example of that is if you've watched the movie Napoleon Dynamite. My favorite animal is a liger. It's half lion, half tiger.
There's actually one at the local. There's one at the museum I went to a museum recently, and they actually have a liger.
A live one or a fake one?
Well, it's like a stuffed animal, but it's like a tiger lion hybrid. Apparently,
growing up in Idaho, the Idaho Falls Zoo had a liger. Live. It is huge.
Wow.
If you guys go out and Google ligers, They're ginormous. It's a lion tiger hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's fascinating how big they are, right? But there's so much experimentation, so much illegal science going on throughout the world that could there be more things going on that we don't know about? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions, it was kind of funny that in the congressional hearing that I watched a clip that somebody, one of the ladies, the congresswoman, said, "Does the government has the government made contact with or have communication with extraterrestrial intelligence or something?" And he's like, "I'm not allowed to answer that in a public setting." And I was like, wait, what? And then she's like, "Well, okay, was there at the crash site that happened, was there people or was there aliens found?" And he's like, "There were biologics. Biologics were found at the crash site." Okay, were they human or non-human? There were non-human by like this. She had to like pull it out of this guy. It's like, come on, just tell us what happened. Why, this whole idea that they're still trying to fight this thing. Now, one of the interesting things, and I think this is going to be important for us to listen to, is I listened to a podcast today about a particular whistleblower who was actually not at this particular today's hearings. Those are the recording of this video. It's Wednesday, the 25th, I think. Anyways, it's but this was a guy who reported to Congress a couple months ago, maybe. And he was talking about how he's excited to share what he found with these government people so that the government can help them expose it or help them kind of get the word out. And I'm like, the government is the one that did it. Like, why? Like, why do you think they're going to protect you? That's not that I'm not anti-government. I'm anti-corruption. I'm anti like all of the lies that are out there. Like, if you've got technology, I know. And another example of technology that we know exists and that they're being held from is that how many people invented like Nikola Tesla, the power that he came up with, it was completely renewable. Like you could always, and there was plenty of it, and it was super powerful. And then the guy that came up with an engine that could run on water or seawater, and then all of a sudden the story that he had, and then he died or he's disappeared. How many stories? I mean, there's too many stories out there for you to kind of dismiss it completely. But I was just like, dude, the guy, I'm like, bless your heart, bro. But the government is the one that knows all. I mean, maybe it's a black ops, like super secretive part of the government that actually ran that. And he's now talking to this other part of the government that doesn't know what's going on over there. But I'm like, bro, it's the same house, just a different room. Like,
okay, let me ask you this then. Have you ever heard of Stanley Steemer?
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. I don't recognize it though.
Okay. So a lot of people think when I say Stanley Steemer, they think, oh, Stanley Steemer carpet cleaner, right?
Okay.
You've probably heard of that. But the Stanley Motor Carriage Company actually created what was called, like everyone colloquially called it, the Stanley Steemer. It was a steam engine vehicle that could go 1,500 miles.
Wow.
On one tank
Of like just water
of
or
water.
something? Oh, wow.
It was a steam engine, like a locomotive, steam locomotives. And then the whole industry changed. They're like, oh no, this is dangerous technology. We've been using this for so long, but now all of a sudden it's dangerous. And so boilers are mysteriously blowing up all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be sabotage. It's too controlled. But the reason I bring that up is like, there's so many bits and pieces of technology that were more efficient and more effective that they've eliminated so that you'd had to use the commercialized versions.
Mm-hmm.
Your other options are taken away. But then those technologies have been being used in other ways to develop new things, as well as other stuff like Project Bluebeam.
Right.
Love it or hate it, right? Project Bluebeam is a three-dimensional holographic, lifelike, real CIA operation to try to make it so that they can convince you something's happening that's really not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the best example of this in media is in the Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oh, yep.
Mysterio's like, oh, look, we did all this destruction, and he uses all these different cameras and projections, and it's like, okay, they're saying, yeah, we have technology that can do that. Yes, you can just go, oh, CGI does this, CGI does that, but like, with all the deep fakes and all the video fakes, they're working on ways to do additional fakes. And if they make these things sound plausible and blame it on alien technology or blame it on devils and demons and fallen angels and anything else but reality, it can get a lot of people really confused.
Yep. And when you're confused, you want to turn to someone else to help you understand things or to get you some safety, and you're willing to give up your freedoms for that safety, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera. So, relating it a little bit to being prepared and self-reliant is that we need to know the scriptures well enough. We need to be able to discern truth well enough. We need to be able to recognize that when we're being sold a bill of goods, so that we can prepare for that and be ready no matter what happens, no matter what does come of this whole UFO thing. There's a lot of theories thrown around. I don't know what your theories are if you're listening, but if you're on our YouTube channel and watching, put some comments and tell us what you think. What are some of the
Yeah.
theories that you've heard of? That'd be fun to hear from you guys. But the reality is that there are some deep state nefarious people working to distract, working to cause more fear. Fear is the opposite of faith. And so if you can be scared to death of an alien invasion, as far as I'm concerned, um, I'm not worried about an alien invasion, by the
Yeah.
way, because I know that no matter what, Jesus will have the power to overtake those dudes, even if it did, but I don't believe it, by the way. But the fact is they're creating this fear machine that's going to get more and more people scared to death. And when you're scared and you're in fear, you're going to make decisions based on that fear. And that's where they want you to be. They want you to be in a place where you're scared and you're willing to give up your freedoms and your liberties to be safe and secure. And so just be ready for that and be prepared for that, and just recognize that, whatever they're doing, they're going to make it look like it's actually real. Like they're going to make it look, and there may be some reality to it, but
Yeah.
I promise you, it's deception.
There's so many levels of deception throughout the world. Just look throughout history. First of all, the Titanic. If you start going down the rabbit hole of the Titanic, there's so much deception around the Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
Just thousands of reports of deception, right? Tons of misinformation around it. You can go back just simply to the JFK assassination, and there's too many missing pieces,
Yeah.
and there's too many different stories, right?
What's funny is that a lot of this whole UFO thing came because the Freedom of Information Act, I think, or
Mhm.
there were some papers that were released. And that's the same thing when you look back on any of these, what were used to be called conspiracies, is that the paperwork came out, I mean, there's some of it's redacted quite a bit, but stuff's come out. And they're like, well,
Mhm.
I guess we can finally admit we did it, or finally admit that we have that was actually true. And so a lot of this, I mean, there's some conspiracies out there that are just wackadoo. Like, I don't believe that there's people with, lizard eyes, or, I don't believe there's lizard people with human. I loved the TV show V, but I don't think that's
You
real.
don't believe there's alien,
But,
human,
but there's
lizard
people,
hybrids?
there's people that believe that there's lizards with human skin on them that are from other. I don't buy that necessarily, but I do believe in a lot of the stuff. There's way too many examples of nefarious people getting into positions of power, like our government, like in high levels of businesses that have tons of money, that are pushing agendas and that are trying to get things, happening. And so, I mean, I don't know why it was destroyed, but the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed just recently. And like, why were those even put up there? And I was talking to
Mhm.
another buddy of mine, and he was saying that these guys are evil. They just want to depopulate the world, and they want to get everybody to the point where they're in this situation where it's like, in these 15-minute cities, or we're in these smart cities, and we're just all packed in like sardines, and we're all totally under their control and microchipping us, all this stuff. And I said, well, the Georgia Guidestones, dude, said that 500 million people was all that should be on this planet. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like, so we're going to go from their agenda is to go from 9 billion or 8 billion, whatever we are, to, down to 500 million. And that means a mass genocide. That means a mass culling of a lot of people. And that's what are we seeing right now? How many things are we seeing right now where it's like, so and so died suddenly, so and so died suddenly? It's like every day there's a dozen articles about people died suddenly because of these because of the let me do the visual here, because I don't know if I can say it on YouTube and have us not get censored anymore, but the jab, so anyways, not to get too far off track, but I think there's for example, I was listening to a podcast today, and this guy was in the military. He was a Marine Corps guy, and then he was in Indonesia after the earthquake. And he said that a lot of times they'll do an earthquake so that they can then stage the military to go in there for aid and to help, or some natural disaster, and they'll go in there and they'll help them out. And then so this military guy was there, and they were running aid to certain areas. They were like the real people that were really doing aid. And then
Mm-hmm.
they came across, and one of their patrols, they came across an area that was like this huge, it was like 300 feet across, 300 yards across. He said, this huge, like, hovering craft. And it was like, he says, I didn't see aliens, he says, but I saw their technology. And so this craft was there, and it was hovering above the ground, and these trucks were driving up onto this platform that I couldn't see how it was connected to the craft, but it would like raise up and down and put the crafts into the bigger, like this platform would raise into the bigger platform. He says, all I could feel was the hum and the sound of the hum, but there was no other sound. There was no like wind, or there was no like just anything. There was just this hum and this buzzing sound. And he says, it was me and 4 or 5 other Marines. And we got up close enough to that. Apparently we triggered their whoever that was, and we got surrounded by some of their spec op guys, and we got like just riot act. Like we were scared for, like I said, we were scared for our lives. And he saw these trucks carrying these like smaller versions of cargo into this craft. And then he said the craft like lifted straight up, and then just like 4,000 miles an hour, just gone. And
That's on
what
the
he
episode 66 of the Sean Ryan podcast.
Yeah. That's part one, because then he says later he described this cargo container that these trucks were on. He's described it later to another guy who was also a whistleblower, and he was like, "Dude, that," because he thought they were like transporting drugs or weapons or whatever, and the guy was like, "No, dude, that particular design of transport is for human trafficking." And so he was just like, oh my gosh, human trafficking is another huge thing right now. And the fact that he said that a lot of these disasters get natural disasters happen, so these groups can come in for aid, and it's like a perfect, grounds for, people are missing anyways, because it's just been a natural disaster. So if you can blame it on the fact that your kid died in the natural disaster, but they've really been taken off by this craft or whatever whatever is going on. And it's just, there's so much wickedness and evil that's going on. And to me, it's, how do we prepare for it? Well, we get right with God. We get to the point where we know what we're supposed to do. And we can't put our heads in the sand either. We got to find out, what's true and what's kind of fake, but also open our hearts and minds to the reality that there might be stuff out there that's big, that's like, there really might be technology out there that's like that's way far more advanced than what we get to see on the everyday, that they're hidden.
Think about the unlimited budgets of these organizations.
Yeah.
They can just print money, or they're doing things like selling drugs to fundraise for their illicit technologies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they can then take all that money and take all that power and co-op with other organizations to create technologies. I mean, just a hovering craft of some type with a humming sound, a buzzing sound, but no other like loud engines or anything. That immediately bounces into my head how bumblebees fly.
Oh
They
yeah,
don't
that's
actually
good.
fly. Their wings are their directional, and their buzzing that they create with the wings, it creates anti-gravity. If you guys
Interesting.
go down that rabbit hole, it's one of the most fascinating things how bees actually fly. And they actually follow the electrical pathways the north to south polarization, magnetization, they follow the ether. It is really fascinating. They're the most direct flying animal in the world.
Yeah, because
Nothing else
it's
can fly in such a straight line.
based on, a butt freaking size of a bumblebee and the size of their wings, they shouldn't be able to fly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
all scientific evidence, logic and reason, and aerodynamics, just aerodynamics alone prove that it cannot fly according
Mhm.
to the physics that we understand. But we don't understand everything about this Earth.
Yeah.
Like there's so much science that isn't settled. They're like, oh, we learn more things,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, we found more animals in the ocean. Oh, we found more animals in the Everglades. Oh, we found more animals in that we never thought existed in the Amazon. And it's like you see things and you learn things. You're like, wow, there's so much more that we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah.
That's the fascinating thing to me about planet Earth is there's so much we don't know and we're still learning and can
Mhm.
still be explored. Even they say, even though we're told there's nothing left to explore, are you kidding me? There's so much more to explore. There's so
Yeah.
much more to study and research and test. And I love Nikola Tesla was doing so much. And I believe that he was actually opening up all the technologies that were hidden from around the world through the oh, what are they called? The Tartarians.
Tartarians.
I believe he was starting to use a lot of their stuff and build off of that. And the new world powers were like, whoa, uh-uh,
Yeah.
we can't make money on that. That's
Mhm.
free energy. That's why we got rid of those guys last time, right? There's so much hidden truths in the world that if you just do a little bit of study, you can learn things. And if you test things, you can create things. And it's like I was having this conversation this morning with my chiropractor, and he was telling me about his sister or sister-in-law started doing these basically take a stick and you wrap copper around it. They're ether um, gathering little I forget the word I'm looking
Devices.
for devices, but basically you just put it in the ground. It's a little ether antenna, and she's found that her plants are growing 40% larger and faster than they were last year, and the ones that she has it with versus the ones that she didn't put them next to, the comparison is drastic. And her
Wow.
neighbors are like, "How are you doing this?" She's like, "I made extras here," and they're putting them in their gardens. The
Wow.
radio
Just
signals and all the other things could be interfering with our foods and the way the earth actually works. And so if we go back to simple things that were done in the 1940s that we've abandoned, making our own fertilizer out of actual live, remnants of food and chicken feces and rabbit feces, like utilizing the natural cyclical resources that we can create around us. We don't need all the stuff that commerce wants us to have.
Mhm.
There's better ways to do it, and we just have to actually go out and practice and do it. And now's the time to do it. If you wait too long, you're going to run out of time.
Yeah. That's one of the big things that people have to remember, and I have to remember, is that the skill sets and the practicing, we need to have that right now. And there may come a time, especially with all of the things that are happening in the world right now. We're seeing the BRICS nations come out with their currency. They're backed by gold that it's really crazy. And then we're also seeing the CBDCs, and there's actual evidence that these guys are going to be able to, uh, you know, the World Economic Forum pretty much basically said that, look, we need people to stay in their lane. And so we're going to create this digital currency so that we can control where people buy things and how they buy things and when they buy things. And then they're going to have all this, we have so much with AI, artificial intelligence,
Yep.
coming out right now. And we have this strike going on in Hollywood because here's what somebody said the other day about that strike that's going on in Hollywood, and it kind of maybe relates to what we're talking about with UFOs and other things. But they were talking about artificial. What if these whistleblowers had evidence that some of these famous actors or these people in Hollywood were actual pedophiles and really doing horrible things? There, maybe this whole strike is to kind of set out that, hey, it's all about AI and we've been cloned and on virtually. And so it isn't really us. And so when all these videos pop out or this evidence pops out about these guys doing stuff, they're like, oh no, that's all AI formed around. Like, that's not really us. That's
That's
an
really
AI
scary.
version of us that
Yeah.
they're trying to defame us and defraud us and libel and all that stuff and slander us. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that was actually somebody, when I saw that, that somebody had that insight and they shared that, I was like, there's so much that's, it's all, it just boils down to, are we the victims of a psyop or not? And
Yeah.
there's psyops happening all the time. That psyop is psychological operation where they psychologically influence a mass group. It's massive uh, propaganda, it's information, it's whatever it is, to have the masses be under a psychological spell of some kind. And that's where it kind of relates to prep. That's where it relates to prepping and being self-reliant and being prepared. Because if you're under some spell that these psychological guys have cast upon the world, you're not going to be the kind of person that's going to be able to survive whatever they're trying to do. And some people might say, Scott Paris, this is a really wild and crazy topic. You're right. It is a wild and crazy topic.
It's not a normal prepping topic.
And when you go down the rabbit hole a little bit, you start to realize, wait a minute, maybe there's something to this. And again, there's going to be somebody in the comments, I promise you, that say, sounds like you guys watch too many YouTube videos. Well, maybe we have, maybe we have, but you know what? I'd rather know about the stuff. I'd rather know about the conspiracies that are out there and kind of say, wait a minute, what if it is true? What can I do to prepare about it? And if it isn't true, then I've prepared about it, and I'm better off. So there's really not a loss when you take it the right way.
Well, here's what I found. Like, and we've talked about this before. When you start preparing for one thing, one big thing, you're covering so many bases for anything.
Yeah.
Right. I'm personally preparing for natural disasters because that is the most likely events to occur in my life of disruption. And I look back to the past to prepare for the future. My family lived in Idaho. There, the Great Teton Dam just collapsed, fell apart, and just thrashed the Teton Valley up through St. Anthony and up by Rexburg, Idaho. And I have family that was in that. And that's like the most important, like, hey, oh yeah, we can prepare for these things. And it wasn't just, oh, we've got food storage, we've got this stuff. A lot of homes were washed away that had that.
Yeah.
But the community came together. And this is the part I want to finish off on. The community came together and started taking care of business before any aid, throw some air quotes, aid, especially government aid, could come and help them. It is our responsibility to help our neighbor. From a Christian aspect, where is thy brother? Aren't thou thy brother's keeper? Right?
Yeah.
What are you doing to be better prepared? And I wholeheartedly believe that prepared families create prepared communities. It's how we work together to solve our own problems that
Whether
is
it's
the
a
most
natural disaster
valuable aspect. Whether it's a natural disaster,
or an alien invasion,
or an alien invasion. If we work together, we've got a better chance at everything. And that's why it's so important to have that community. Focus on God, family, community, country. And that's why I wanted to really wrap this conclusion together on that aspect, because nothing can be so bad that it can catch you off guard if you're preparing for at least something.
Yeah.
Something's better than nothing. And so with that in mind, I want to remind you guys, check out our webpage, preppertalkradio.com. We've got some really cool offers there. If you go to preppertalkradio.com/ready project, we're really excited about this new group that we're working with. I've known them for almost 6-7 years. We've been talking to them for a while. They're going to give us a huge discount. So go to our webpage, preppertalkradio.com/ready project to claim your discount code. And as soon as that goes live, you'll be able to get to the portal. They've got a special deal. It's food storage and first aid kits that are all fantastic. They're stuff we use. They're stuff we love. We want you to get in on those as well. We're always looking for things that will both help you more than anything, but also support the show a little bit. So get over there, stay involved in our community, jump into our emergency prep and self-reliance group. We go live every week in there, and we have lively discussions about all types of prepping topics in there to help everybody get better prepared. Thanks for tuning in and not tuning out. Thanks for trying to be ready-minded.